Hello,
Hey Jake,
Josh. What's up?
got a question for you. Our normal episodes. Entering the legs. So I feel like I was actually talking to Andres the other night, and I was like, how do you figure out like what to work on?" And he said for Nogi, entering the legs from guard is probably a pretty important thing if I want to improve my guard. And so yeah, I've been trying to work on that a little bit, but it still seems very mysterious. There's a lot going on in that connection phase of engagement, and having a little bit of success with shin on shin, going to single leg X and X guard. But besides that, everything else looks pretty fuzzy in that phase. So yeah, maybe I was curious. My question is maybe if you can walk through some like concepts or kind of bigger ideas of what's going on in that phase, and then we can go from there and see where we end up.
Just curious before I answer, did Andres give you any like things to think about to develop the skill or not really?
No, no, it just kind of
Okay.
pointed out that that would be like an important area.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. Um, recently I was listening to Cole Abate break down his match with Damian Anderson, and he talked about how when he pulls guard, the first thing he like looks at is what type of posture his opponent has when they're trying to approach his guard. So in this match, Damien was using a lot of like high step type passing. His posture was like relatively high. So basically Cole was like, because of that, you have like access to their legs more directly, and you can start to use like shin on shin or like K guard to enter into the legs. And he specifically tried to use K guard because he thought it was a good counter to the like high step, like back step type variation of passing. Um, But I think a good kind of like starting point is to say like, is my opponent like standing relatively upright, or are they like very hunched over where I have to get past their hands and head first before I can get to their legs? Um, so this would kind of, I think, dictate how easy it's going to be and the approach you're going to have to take to get there, kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about the posture. Um, so yeah, if maybe we start with the harder one. If they are really hunched over and
Yeah.
with their hands and hand fighting your hands and grabbing your feet and stuff, that seems pretty difficult to get.
I mean, it's very hard to deal with, and I think that's like the rumble passing type thing that became so popular, because it's very hard to make good connection to them. And whenever you do get some sort of advantage, they tend to like back out and disengage and then just come back in and reset. Um, so I think it's a difficult problem to solve for sure. And it just like brings me back to when I was making my guard retention instructional like a year ago that I never finished slash never released. So basically when I was doing the research, it was like Lachlan's approach was like for guard retention, you want to respond like relatively quickly to your opponent's like passes and like don't let them get too deep into it. And then Josh McKinney had kind of a different approach that basically said the deeper you allow them to get into the guard pass, the more they have to like risk being connected to, if that makes sense. So if you do let them get like one or two layers deep into the guard pass, now if you are able to retain, you're able to retain into some sort of like retention as opposed to like trying to get right into your attacks off of their like passes. And then they're probably going to like just run away. So it could be like you got to give a little to get a little kind of situation. And like, um, yeah, like the way I've been trying to do it recently is like we had this guy visit and he was kind of playing this type of game. And I've been trying to really work on taking upward facing 2-on-1 grips and using that to like pull myself into like outside position, like K guard or De La Hiva type spots. But whenever I would pull with my legs on the outside, he would like immediately like back up and like disengage. So I was like, all right, maybe I have to like pull him into like a knee cut where he feels like, oh, maybe I can like pass from here. And then from the knee cut, I need to figure out a way to like get my feet to the outside. So it's like I tried the initial approach a couple times. It didn't work, and I wasn't having like any success getting like control of him. So then I let him get a little farther and then tried to play from there, kind of thing. So that's the way I've been approaching it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The part I'm trying to wrap my head around is like, what's a good connection for the bottom player versus the top player? Like maybe if we can look at that knee cup position, it I guess like it reminds me of something Greg said of like it may not be inherently good or bad. It depends like who's imposing it on the other. Because in that knee cup position, where you kind of have a knee shield, you're in this like reverse de la Hiva, and for the top player, it's like this split squat feeling position. Is it definitively better for the top player in that position? Or kind of like you said, sometimes you can lure them in and it seems like you can still be one step ahead. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that's like too like esoteric of a question of like what's a good connection, but well, yeah, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it is. There's just so many variables. It's kind of hard to tell. But I think one potential variable would be like how deep their knee is, in on the knee cut. Another potential variable would be like the structure of your knee shield.
Hmm.
And then another potential variable would be like the control they have over your head, if that makes sense. So, like, if you have the ability to curl in if you want or extend away if you want.
Hmm.
Um, so I think like if you have like good structure in your knee shield, their knee is like not even close to like breaking through, and you have like they have no control of your head. I feel pretty good. Like, okay, let's start grip fighting from here, kind of thing, and see if I can get to some advantageous like angle. Um, but yeah, if they enter in with their knee like on the mat with like an over back grip, like controlling your head, it's like crap. Like I probably have to like, you know, retain a bit, like full defense mode for a bit until I can get back to a more defensive angle. Off the top of my head, I think those are a few things to consider. No.
Those are super good examples, and I'm kind of like starting to answer my own question a little bit by thinking about like Greg's whole thing of saying that guard is like making and maintaining. What does he say? Making maintain connections to manage distance.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing like that example you used of when the top player grabs your head and or like pins your hand or like collapses the knee shield, then your connections aren't very effective to manage distance anymore. You can't back out. You can't crunch in enough.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah. And I find being able to like dictate your own posture definitely helps with the grip fight. Cause like, for example, if you're playing half guard, let's say you're on your right hip and you want to control their right arm, so the arm that's like on the side of your knee shield.
yeah.
If you're all curled up, you can't really like go and reach it all that well without bringing your left arm like way behind your own body, and then you're like exposing underhooks and stuff like that. But if you can extend your body away, now one, even if they did get an underhook, it would be relatively easy for you to pummel it back in. Um, and two, I think you have a better ability to use both hands to grip fight. Um, so being able to play with that like extension versus like curling, I think is relatively good for grip fighting and also like destabilizing them. And if they're the ones controlling your head, you can't manipulate your posture to help you.
Yeah, yeah. Man, this is where like some of the eco stuff I think is so good for guard because instead of me thinking like, oh, I need to go shin on shin and then I need to go single leg X and then I need to go X guard. Instead of that, maybe I should be thinking about like, I need to constantly like change the distance and make this guy like constantly move forward and backwards and left and right and just until something emerges from there or something. Um, I don't know. I think maybe my mindset's been too technique oriented when it comes to entering the legs as well.
Yeah. Um, so when you're trying to enter the legs, I would say you're trying to get their weight a bit forward, you know, like you're trying to put their hands on the mat would be a good time to enter their legs. So like if you go in for a double ankle sweep and you put them on their butt, you're probably just going to wrestle up, you know, but if you put them on their hands, now you're entering into their legs probably.
Dude,
So
wow, okay. Yes. That is, mind blowing because oh my gosh, I'm, like, never putting them on their hands. All my attacks from guard are trying to put them on their butt. So, wow, no wonder I'm having so much trouble.
Yeah. So from like half guard, or let's just make it super easy. Say you're in like a butterfly half guard.
Mhm,
Generally, like if you're trying to enter their legs, your goal would be to get a 2-on-1 on either wrist and try and put that hand like above your shoulder. And then now you're elevating them up and you put the hand above their shoulder and then your hand goes to their armpit to keep them there. And then now you're like pushing them higher and higher up as you're going down into their legs. Um, you can obviously do this from like a knee shield half guard too. You just need to figure out a way to get your foot to the inside, most likely.
mhm.
At least to do it in like the safest form. But yeah, like that's generally like the idea. What I try and do is get to some sort of half guard. And if you're trying to like enter into their legs directly, it would be like put their hands on the mat above your head and then enter into their legs. Or if you want to do like more like K guard stuff, it would be you're grip fighting and you're always looking for a way to take your bottom leg out of half guard and connect it to their far leg. And either you're reaching for that far leg to go K guard or you're using it to switch hips and you're immediately going into like a De La Hiva where you have a really good angle.
Mm,
Um, so this is kind of the battle that I try and win from bottom half guard. Yeah.
got it. Wow, okay, this makes a lot of sense now. Yeah, I for some reason, yeah, I just never really off balance people onto their hands towards me. I'm always trying to like push them away and then maybe wrestle up and then they come back in and I try to push them away again. But
Right.
wow, I see where this forward and backwards dilemma now can appear. When you get them on your hands, are you usually, well, I guess there's the inside way where you're pummeling your feet to the inside and then going to maybe single leg X or X guard or something from there.
Yep.
Or the outside way is the De La Hiva K guard style, maybe going to the back or backside 50-50 or that
Hmm.
knee breakdown, that type of stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Ah,
So like
cool.
from De La Hiva, if you like I'm trying not to do this more, but this is like a good example of how I used to use it. You take your second leg when you're playing De La Hiva, you put it on the inside into some sort of like R guard. You know what R guard is? No, whatever. You put it on the inside, you off balance them to their hands, and then your De La Hiva hook goes to their hip,
Mhm.
like initially. And then if they stand up, you're tripod sweeping them. And if they don't stand up, you're off balancing them like enough so their hands are like moving around. And then you bring your foot on the hip that was for the tripod sweep. You bring it to the inside and you're either going straight to X guard, butterfly ashi, single leg X, whatever you want to do.
Gotcha.
But that's generally like the approach.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. Okay. I'm starting to think about some games. Maybe I can start off with picking a guard and then having the player start with their hands already on the mat. And
There
my
you go.
job is just to hold them on, keep their hands on the mat, keep their weight on the mat as like a maintenance game. And then from there, maybe upgrading to like better connection and getting their hips down and stuff like
Yep.
that. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. Cause like um kind of like I talked about in the Daily Hiva video and what I've been trying to work on is like a lot of times, even when you off balance people to their hands, the better people are like maybe posting one hand on the mat and their second foot or second hand is still monitoring your leg. So you can't like bring it to the inside, you know?
Just,
So it's like, how do I still use this off balance to upgrade my position, even though I'm not getting to where I ultimately wanted to be, you know? So like maybe instead of bringing your foot to the inside, you're taking a better grip on their De La Hiva leg, you know? So when they come back, now it's going to be much harder for them to like bring their knee in front of their toes and start to like create a more headquarters type situation, you know?
right.
Because you have a more secure connection to their leg now. So it's like trying to not waste off balances. Um, so I think that's a really good idea. Like keep them on their hands and then try and figure out like ways to upgrade your connection. Um, and it could mean like more smaller upgrades as opposed to like big advances in position, you know?
Yeah. And I'm starting to picture now how this can link to the wrestle ups because like you're putting them on your hands and then maybe you're coming up on a single leg with that leg.
Yep.
Um, yeah, super cool. Nice. Lots to play with. Anything else on this topic? I feel like this was a pretty good breakthrough, and I got some good
Nice.
things to practice now.
Yeah. No, that's basically what I've been trying to work on, um, too. And yeah, like I said, it's just can be hard to do if the person doesn't want to play, you know? So, yeah, if they're in that posture, it could be difficult. But when they're trying to do like more fancy, like footwork style, passes, it, it can be kind of fun to play the leg game a bit more. Granted, they should at least be like a bit more comfortable dealing with leg entanglements if they're passing like that, because they're kind of like know the risk of passing like that. So theoretically, they're comfortable managing that risk, you know. But
Right.
yeah, some people just do it naively. So those are the people you practice on.
Yeah, that's me as a passer. The hardest thing for me is dealing with the leg entanglements because I always pass stepping down the middle and starting from there, split squat or headquarters, like the half guard passing stuff. And I don't do the outside rumble passing or high step, kind of
Yeah,
that distance passing as much. But yeah, I guess that's a good thing to keep an eye out too. Yeah, like you mentioned with the posture at the beginning. So another topic, but we can maybe save for a future episode is how to deal with those outside type of passing if you're not going to be able to enter the legs. It seems tricky, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The high step passing um, can be hard to deal with. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
different problem to solve for sure.
It looks so cool when they do it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm going to search the data. That's my next search on the database, the high step passing style.
yeah, yeah. So you could search like high step. Um, and then like if you tack on like guard retention, you would see like ways to deal with it.
Nice. Okay.
And then if you tack on like guard pass, you'd probably see like actual passes from the high step.
Okay, cool.
Um, and there's also like loose passing is a hashtag in there. So like that would be like more like Toriando style. I think Toriando's in there. I just sometimes forget to put it in there. I think I'd put loose passing in there more, but um, either way, like with all these things, you would either tack on like guard retention to it if you wanted to see how to retain against it. Um, yeah. Or another thing to maybe consider searching for would be I have a hashtag defense to offense. So you could put like guard retention and then defense to offense and then figure out ways. Generally, what that means is you're probably going into some sort of leg entanglement off of your guard retention. So that might give you some ideas on how to retain your guard into leg entanglements. Um, yeah, I think that's all I can think of at the moment. Um,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah, the entanglements are just, yeah, because getting feet to the inside, I always just think of single leg X, but I know there's like a bunch of other fancy ways to collect legs and like
yeah,
connect to their hips and stuff. So yeah, I'll check out the hashtags and I'll probably see a bunch more examples rather than
yeah,
trying to talk about exactly how those configurations look on a podcast. It's difficult.
yeah. Just to give you a few more ideas, you could go just like single leg X entry. Um, you could also, I have like hashtag connection in there. So you could say like seated open guard and then hashtag connection, or you can say like supine open guard, hashtag connection to see like different ways people are making like the initial connection
Right.
from that open guard. Um, I have 2-on-1 grip in there. So you could see like, you could type in like half guard 2-on-1 grip or something like that, and then see different ways people are winning a grip fight from half guard.
Okay, cool.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
I think that'll probably keep you pretty busy.
It's always good when you leave an episode like this with homework assignments. So
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you got 1 week.
Sounds good. Maybe we could talk about the passing stuff next week.
Yeah,
Like
the
the
high step.
opposite side.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the opposite side of this approach. But
cool. Yeah,
yeah,
sounds
cool,
good.
cool. Thanks, Jake.
Later, Josh.
See ya.